Yo, third time. Let's hope it's the charm. Welcome. Good evening, wherever and however you may be listening. We are so glad that you're here. And by we, I of course mean me. All right, boys and girls, we've got a good episode for you. I've tried to do this twice, and we've had some audio issues. So shout out Nathan for helping me troubleshoot. We're hoping this is the fix. Just a quick computer restart, I think, has solved the problem. We'll see. But happy to have you with us, however and whenever you may be joining us. We've got a good episode tonight. I do have, as I allude to in my Facebook title, I do have a Pokemon top 10. And I know what you may be thinking. Maybe. Pokemon? That's for nerds. No, it's not. It is not for nerds. I have news for you. And even if you think it is, everybody had a Pokemon phase. Everyone. Like, I don't care if it was a week. I don't care if it was 10 years. I don't care if you're still in it. That's awesome. I wish I was still in it, and I'm going to try to get back into it. But I had a buddy post about Pokemon tonight, and it took me through all the feels of nostalgia. And I was like, that's the top 10 I'm going to do on my podcast tonight. So buckle in, boys and girls. And it's not going to be like oh, this is the best Pokemon in the trading card game. This card, you need it in your deck. I mean, there's a top 10 for that, 100%, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm also not doing a top 10 of like, this is the best Pokemon in Game Boy Color Blue version. Also not that. I'm ranking my Pokemon based on who I think is most badass. So I would love your thoughts. But this will be my top 10, and it is what it is. And I do have the caveat. I am going only off of the original 151. Now, I am not well versed in the Pokeverse of all the new ones, like the hundreds and hundreds of new versions, and Kanto and the gold and the silver and the ruby and the sapphire. There's way more Pokemon than I even know exist. We're just rolling on the 151. So if you're interested, buckle in, stay a while. We'd love to have you. In the first couple times I've tried to do this podcast this evening, I've given some review thoughts about the TGL Golf League that had their fourth match tonight, and it was by far the most interesting and enjoyable one yet. The first three were all blowouts, which is very annoying to watch as a fan of anything. There's no drama, there's no adrenaline, the players don't even care. So the match tonight was excellent. It actually went into the first overtime in TGL history, which if you don't know how that works, well, it was kind of cool. They did a good job with it. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, who are the two biggest names in golf, were at the center of the stage, which is great for viewership. It's great for numbers, and it was a good match. The match is only like 2 hours. They're actually pretty watchable as far as golf goes. They move pretty quick. There is a shot clock, and they try to engage the golfers way more than you would see on a normal golf course. So for the casual fan, it's actually pretty interesting. Would highly recommend. The next match is Tuesday, February 4th. So a week from tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. If you have nothing else to do, tune in, check it out. We're going to be talking about it next week. Looking forward to watching the rest of the regular season play out in the TGL. So far, it's again, mixed results, I think. Too early to make a determination, but tonight was a really good step forward in that it was a very competitive match all the way into overtime. Tiger's team did end up winning, which is great. If you like Tiger Woods, which most people do. And I'll be tuning in next week to watch Rory's team again, 2 weeks in a row, play LA. So jump into that if you're interested. We're going to be going through it a little bit. I may even be live streaming it because it's going to be kind of late next week. Again, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN next Tuesday. So plan to jump in there if you want to watch that with me, and I'll probably just have it on mute on my stream, and we can watch through it. I'm not sure about the copyright issues, but nobody watches my stream anyway, so I don't think ESPN is going to be cease and desisting me. The only other thing I really want to talk about is the NFL, and I know some of you may not care about football. It was championship weekend this weekend, so the last 4 teams in the NFL playing this weekend. One game was a total complete blowout, mostly a waste of time. It was interesting. So the Eagles and Commanders. The Eagles have been a very good football team most of the year. And most people expected them to be at least in the NFC Championship game. So no shock there. They were playing the Washington Commanders, who were a surprise team. Nobody really expected them to be in the championship game. They have a rookie quarterback. They only won 4 games last year, and here they are with 12 wins this season. So a massive turnaround. They get to the championship game to play Philadelphia. Through a little bit of luck, they had some decent draws as far as teams they were playing with injuries and some matchup issues and things like that. So Washington did get, I would say it's lucky. Yeah, it's lucky. So they played the Eagles, and Washington takes the ball first on Sunday, and it takes them 17 plays and over 7 minutes to go down the field for just a field goal. They made it look about as hard as you can make it look playing football against any team in the championship game of the conference. Washington, every play Washington ran looked like it was the most difficult thing they've ever done. Gaining 4 yards was like the toughest thing to watch ever. So they methodically go down the field like 4 or 5 yards a play, every so often. They get to field goal range, kick a field goal, they go up 3-0. The Eagles, this is in Philadelphia, and the Eagles take the kick return, the initial time they've touched the ball, run it back 40 yards, which is a great kick return. They're fired up. They're ready to go. And the first play from scrimmage. So the Eagles offense runs out onto the field. They hand it off to their running back, Saquon Barkley, and he's gone 60 yards for a touchdown. So that really summed up the entirety of the game. Washington made it look extremely difficult. They turned the ball over a lot, many fumbles, sloppy game. And Philadelphia looked like the better team the entirety of the game, and they won 55-23. Not that exciting of a game. Congratulations, Eagles, Super Bowl. The other game was the Bills and the Chiefs, and we all could have predicted what was going to happen in this game, which is the refs were going to make sure that the Chiefs won the game and got to the Super Bowl, which, again, that's exactly what happened. I hate it for Josh Allen. The quarterback of the Bills deserves a chance at the Super Bowl. Josh Allen is the prototypical quarterback that if you went into a lab and were designing a quarterback, Josh Allen is who you would design. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's like 6'5", 250 pounds. He's built like a F-250, and he runs through people like an F-250. And to boot, he's a really fun, good dude. Like, if you watch him on the Bills' social media or you watch him in interviews or whatever, he's just like a fun-loving, happy-go-lucky dude. And he's great at football. And you want to root for a guy like that. You want to see that guy have success. And it just sucks that he keeps running into the buzzsaw that is Patrick Mahomes every year. And credit to the Chiefs. They don't lose. So I don't know what else to say other than credit to them. They're a great football team. And we get to watch Taylor Swift on TV again, which apparently is the biggest draw this league has ever seen because they keep putting Taylor Swift on our television screen anytime Travis Kelce touches the ball and anytime the Chiefs win. There's Taylor, because we all know that the only reason the Chiefs are winning is Taylor Swift. So, neat. I don't know how much she's influencing the NFL and how much money the NFL's making and their viewership. Apparently it's a lot because they want to make sure that the Chiefs are in every single game that matters. And that's where they're putting them, is the Super Bowl. And for all of you out there who are like, oh, I'm not going to watch a Super Bowl because it's the Chiefs again. Yeah, you are. You're going to watch a Super Bowl. Don't worry. You'll get over it. It's 2 weeks away. You'll watch it. I don't know where you'll be, but you'll watch it. So the NFL has a product that you really just can't get away from if you're a fan, which I guess is good for them. That's how they make money. But it's a sad product to have to watch when you feel like the officials are the ones that are deciding the game. So that kind of sucks. But whatever. It was a close game until it wasn't. And I hate it for Buffalo and their fans. But Josh Allen put it best in his post game presser. He was dejected. He was demoralized. Whatever. First thing he said is he goes, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and they can't. So there's nothing really else to say other than he's right. So I'm going to quit beating the dead horse of the NFL. I'm sure that's just been pounded into your heads today after the games yesterday. So I'll let the people who get paid to do it talk about it. Where I want to go is I'm trying to find a nice balance of this stream, podcast, whatever you want to call it, that, I watch sports. I like sports. I want to talk about those, but I also want to talk about stuff that like spurns discussion and debate, right? Like that's why we're all here. And I think when I'm talking to myself, it can be hard to do that. So I'm trying to figure out a way to like either, take phone calls on the show or have some kind of maybe guest co-host every show that like, hey, they bring their own top 10 and let's have a draft and let's alternate picks and let's have a debate. Let's get into it, right? Because I can, this is probably pretty obvious if you're watching me right now, but I can talk, right? I can talk with the best of them. But honestly, it can get boring when I'm just sitting here chatting with myself. So I want to figure out a way to either get some interviews, get some guest hosts, get some like calls in or something, and we'll figure out a way to do that. But I've been, it's been a couple weeks since I've been with you due to illness, kids, etc. And I've taken some time to try to think about what I want to do that is going to bring a different audience kind of into this, right? And I allude to this in my title, but let's just jump into this top 10, right? Because that's why all three of you are here right now. I know that. So we've got a Pokemon top 10 tonight, and like I said at the top of the show, everybody's had a Pokemon era, right? It may have been a week with your friends in your neighborhood trading Pokemon cards, because everybody had the binder with the little sheets with the little card slots that had all 9 card slots, and you put it in your 3-hole punch binder and you walked around with your cards, right? And everybody had that neighborhood kid who like either the neighborhood kid who knew way more about Pokemon than you did and would totally just take advantage of you trading your cards. They were like, oh dude, you don't want that Scyther. I'll trade you this Psyduck for it, or this Tangela, or worse, a Rattata or a Pidgey, which is a very common card that you have 12 of, but they're like, no, these are really rare, they're worth something. And meanwhile, they take your star card from you. So everybody had a kid like that in the neighborhood. And everybody had kids who didn't know what they were doing, but like their parents bought them Pokemon cards because everybody else had them and they were cool, right? That's what our childhood was. I was probably, I don't know, like 8 or 9 when these Pokemon cards initially came out. Everybody had a phase. And then you get the Game Boy games, and then you went into, the emulators in the last few years that they've built for computers, and they've built for, like the Nintendo Switch has come out with new Pokemon games, and Pokemon is like, it's a revolving door that is like, it's never going to end. It's an awesome game. It's one of the best games that's ever been invented. And, credit to Game Freak and Nintendo, they struck gold. So the franchise itself is awesome. I unfortunately have not like paid attention to the level that I think I should have over the last 15 years, right? Like when you get into college and you get into your job and you get into, sports and you get into other things that, your friends get into, obviously your interests, they ebb and flow with your age and with what your friends do. And I've always like had a secret love of Pokemon. I have the Nintendo Switch. I have Let's Go Pikachu. I even got the game guide to guide me through the game, to show me what all the items are and what the moves are that your Pokemon learn at certain levels, and how to, what are all the shortcuts of the game, and I don't want to miss anything, right? I love that game. It was awesome. It is awesome. So I'm browsing Facebook tonight, as I'm like eating dinner, and one of my friends, Nathan, posts for his birthday, he's looking for this particular Magikarp card, which, to his credit, is an awesome looking card. The artwork is legitimately amazing. The card has insane value, and as most of these Pokemon cards do anymore, and it just got me like back into the mindset of like, dude, Pokemon was awesome. And the fact that I haven't even thought about Pokemon in the last couple of years is truly a tragedy. And now that I have children, I have a reason to think about Pokemon now. So I see that John thinks there is a consensus number one, and I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think there's a consensus number one. We're obviously going to do this the right way and go from 10 to 1. I put a little bit of thought into this. I'm going to be honest. It wasn't like a, weeks long thought out process. It was maybe maybe like the 10 or 15 minutes before the show where I went through the entire list of 151. And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that one. Or, yeah, I remember that one, but it wasn't as cool as I remember it being, or whatever. But this list is really put together with which Pokemon do I think are just the most awesome. I don't know if that's looks. I don't know. It's a combination of everything. But here we go. Number 10 is, you know what? And let's actually, let's do this. This is going to be even better. We're going to share a screen, and let's jump into Pokemon and see if we can't, let's pull up the Pokédex of each of these, right? That's the most obvious W that we can be doing here. We're going to accept the cookies. Okay, number 10 is a really cool looking Pokemon. Oh, what? How is Ninetales not in the Pokédex? Excuse me? Okay, we found a broken website here, obviously. How is Ninetales not in the Pokédex? All right, whatever. You know what? Google won't fail us. All right, Ninetales comes in at number 10. Ninetales is a really badass looking Pokemon. Ninetales evolves from Vulpix. It's just a 2-stage Pokemon, and it's a fire Pokemon, and it's pretty underrated. Like, Ninetales, when you think of fire Pokemon, Ninetales is not the first, second, or probably third, fourth, or fifth that comes to mind. But what a regal looking Pokemon that we have in Ninetales. I mean, I can stretch this podcast probably to 4 hours if you wanted. We could talk about the moves that Ninetales learns. There's an Alolan version of Ninetales, which is awesome. An ice and fairy Pokemon, like, very cool. It appears most of them happen to be female. 75% are female. Yeah, I mean, like, we can talk about Pokemon till we're blue in the face here. Nathan has provided me a link for. Oh yes, look at this card. All right, we're gonna show everyone this card. This card is awesome. Look at the artwork of these cards now. This is incredible artwork. Like, the cards used to look so basic that it was fine for a game, but like, look at what these cards used to look like. It was so, I don't want to say boring, but that's what it was, right? Is you had obviously the image of the Pokemon, but you just had this like black, not black, red, or whatever color the type is. This colored background that's like kind of tie-dye-y, whatever. Cool, fine, whatever. The cards are 20 years old. But the artwork in these cards now is unreal. It's beautiful. It truly is. Now the moves have all changed as well, and I must admit I'm not well versed in the moves of these Pokemon, especially in the trading card game. Although the trading card game is vastly underrated as a game. I did play the Pokemon trading card game on the Game Boy, and that game is legit. It's also on the emulator on the Switch. If any of you have a Nintendo Switch, get the emulators, and the Pokemon trading card game is on the Game Boy emulator. I'm sorry for all the hours you've just lost. But Ninetales comes in at number 10, fire type Pokemon, evolves from Vulpix, great Pokemon, superb Pokemon. Let's move on. Number 9 is a fighting type Pokemon, Hitmonchan. Now, Hitmonchan is commonly seen in tandem with Hitmonlee. Now, in today's world of everybody's offended at everything, you have these two Pokemon that are very clearly named after Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. And when you're a kid, you don't even it doesn't even cross your mind. You're just like, oh, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, of course. But you're an adult now and you're like, oh, I see what they did there. Now, these two Pokemon are typically seen in tandem with each other. In the video game, they're acquired at the same place. You can only get one of them at one time, but they're acquired from the same dojo. You can pick one or the other. The reason I'm going with Hitmonchan, one, he looks more like a boxer. He looks a little more like a human, which I think is cool. Hitmonchan is a Pokemon that has these moves of punches that have different types to them. He has an ice punch, a fire punch, and I think there's one other kind of punch he has that he's capable of learning. But it's a very maybe an ice punch. I think did I say ice punch? Anyway, he's got these different types of moves, right? Which when you've got a fighting Pokemon, it's really cool to be able to create and use moves that are of a different type. It's a huge advantage in the game. And I think it's really cool that Hitmonchan has the abilities to do that. Hitmonlee does not have those abilities. All right, so Nathan has sent the card over for Hitmonchan. Let's take a peek. So this is a graded original card. And when you're talking about grades for cards, there are a few different grading companies, so to speak, and they're looking for multiple different things when you are looking at Pokemon cards. Obviously, the main what am I looking for? Categories or grading. The word will come to me. The things that they grade on are on the top here. Centering of the card. So you want to make sure that the yellow on these edges is pretty even on both sides, and that it's not off center on printing. You want a very centered card. Surface, obviously, no nicks, scratches. It was not hit with a sharp object. Corners, again, kind of the same thing. You didn't drop it. You didn't nick it when you were putting it in your case. Edges, similar concept to corners. This card grades out insanely well, and this original Hitmonchan is going for over $800. $800 US dollars. So I'm sorry if you all are very upset that you don't have your Pokemon cards anymore. I am, because I think we would have been sitting on a gold mine if we would have kept them. But cool, very, very cool card. I always remember seeing the small logo here in the bottom corner. This is a star, which means this is a rare card. There was a diamond for uncommon and a circle for common. But these came in holographic or non-holographic, which is like a sparkly background for those of you who don't know, and the first edition. So very cool card. Yeah. Very, very cool card. Hitmonchan, underrated Pokemon, way cooler than Hitmonlee for obvious reasons. Now, as we move further along here, I just want to remind you, maybe those of you who are just now joining in our top 10, we have Ninetales at number 10 and Hitmonchan at number 9. These are not rankings based on like, this is the best Pokemon to use in the trading card game, this is the best Pokemon to use in the Game Boy game, none of that. I'm just purely ranking Pokemon based on who I like and who looks the coolest and who has the coolest moves, and there's not really a like legitimate way I'm grading these. So don't get too up in arms here, but chime in if you like. Number 8, we are going to go with, let's clear some of these tabs. Otherwise we're going to get real cluttered real quick. Number 8 is Doug Trio. Now, Doug Trio is an evolution of Diglett. Again, just a two, the two evolution Pokemon, or one evolution, I should say, two. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm really stumbling over my words. I apologize. But Doug Trio is a ground type Pokemon that I've always thought looked just really menacing. And I like, at first glance, you're like, dude, they're basically just 3 Digletts. Yeah, I get it. But if we can find a good image of Doug Trio here, for whatever reason, I always pictured Doug Trio to, yes, this is why. Because on the original card, Doug Trio looks pissed. Like, Diglett always looked happy, like kind of just like, oh, whatever. I'm just a measly little Diglett. I'm never gonna hurt you. And then the Doug Trio card, you got these eyebrows on this Doug Trio card, and all of a sudden, this Pokemon is badass. It's kind of scary. I always thought Doug Trio was very cool. So Doug Trio, again, ground type Pokemon. Earthquake is a crazy move. You've got to have a lot of energy cards on Doug Trio to be able to use it in the trading card game. Let's see the card that Nathan sent over. I'm sure this is going to be a very cool artwork card. Yeah, another very cool artwork card, Alolan Doug Trio. The Alolan type Pokemon, I'm not fully versed in, but I know that they're like it's like an antithesis kind of thing of what these Pokemon are. It's a type difference. I think it's like a dark type Pokemon. This one, I believe this Doug Trio, I think that logo is a steel type, metal. Yeah. And so the Alolan Pokemon are of a different type than the regular Pokemon, but very cool artwork. Again, the artwork in these cards is fantastic. It's so like vastly different from each other in that like it's not boring. Like you're never gonna like pull one of these cards and be like, oh yeah, very similar to the other one. Like just even the style of the art is so vastly different, and it's really cool. But yeah, I always thought Doug Trio was an awesome Pokemon. Like Diglett is very weak and like seemed just like a whack-a-mole type Pokemon, where Doug Trio just seemed like very capable. Doug Trio's measurements, I don't think were ever like, that crazy. Like it's not like it's super tall. It looks like, if I can zoom in here, it looks like it's, 2 feet tall, 73 pounds. So it's a pretty dense Pokemon, but yeah, a couple feet. So you're talking like, knee, thigh height Pokemon. But it's pretty powerful. So good for Doug Trio. Yeah. Doug Trio comes in at 8. Probably could be higher, but I've got a good top 7, I like to think. Next up on the list, coming in at 7 is Blastoise. Now, I initially had Blastoise as the second Pokemon I listed in my like just brain dump of Pokemon. Blastoise is a badass. Like these water cannons that are coming out of his back. He always looked so like, what's the word? Cocky, arrogant. I always I really like the Blastoise trading card, the initial Blastoise trading card. Um, he's just thick. Like he's just well built. You know, like Squirtle's kind of weak and measly, cute, whatever. Wartortle, you know, jumps up in evolution, and you're like, okay, he's a little bit of an angry turtle, but he doesn't have any like, you know, features that would scare you, right? Like Wartortle just looks angry, and he's a turtle. Blastoise, the third evolution, excuse me, he's 5'3", he or she, and it weighs 189 pounds. That is a chunky being. That if you're a human, that's a turtle now, and that thing can fire water out of his can, like the hydro pump. I've seen that in Pokemon Stadium. I don't want to stand in front of that. So, yeah, really cool. I always think Blastoise is a very cool Pokemon. I think, you know, Blastoise is one of the three initial starter Pokemon in the game you can get, right? Those are Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. And so you've got a fire, a grass, and a water type Pokemon that you can choose from. And I think a lot of people went with Charmander only because Charizard is, you know, like just the most well-known Pokemon, I think, probably globally outside of Pikachu. And Charizard, you know, is a giant fire-breathing dragon. Like, who doesn't want that on your squad, right? Duh. But I always thought Blastoise was kind of underrated as like a, you know, as a maxed out evolution Pokemon. Like the stage 3 Pokemon of Squirtle is this was a great Pokemon. And especially when you start the game off, the games start out with your first gym is Brock, which is a rock type gym. Water was always effective against rock types. As was the Bulbasaur as a leaf type. And then the second gym is Misty, who's the water type. So Squirtle there was no neither super effective nor not effective water on water. But if you went with Bulbasaur, both of your first two gym battles were pretty easy because both of those gym leaders were susceptible to grass type Pokemon. Now, if you went with a fire type, if you went with Charmander in your first as your starter Pokemon, you had an uphill climb in those first two gyms because fire is not very effective against rock, and then you face the water, which not only is fire not effective against water, but water attacks are super effective against fire. And so you really had to have your ducks in a row if you went with Charmander as your first starter Pokemon. But here's the card Nathan sent over as the new Blastoise. Again, the artwork has just come so far. Now this is an EX, a Blastoise EX. Again, a kind of a different type, but very, very cool looking card. The EX type cards, I think, are obviously they're just in the stage 3 Pokemon. I don't think they make them in like the Squirtle EX or like a they might make a Pikachu EX. But I've got some learning to do on what the EX cards actually mean. However, the artwork of this card is beautiful. Blastoise is a very capable, menacing Pokemon. Don't want to stand across from him in battle. So Blastoise comes in at number 7. Number 6 is going to surprise probably, well, most of you. I guess if you're a really hardcore Pokemon fan, it may not surprise you. But every time I come across this Pokemon, I always thought this Pokemon was just awesome. And now most of the Pokemon I've showed you have been stage 2, stage 3, like the final stage evolution, right? This one is not. And okay, Nathan has corrected me. Any type of card can be an EX. I have learning to do on my Pokemon trading cards. So there's that. But that Blastoise EX is very cool. Number 6 is Pidgeotto. Now, Pidgeotto is the stage 2 evolution and of course I'm going to butcher the spelling, um, is the stage 2 evolution of Pidgey. And Pidgey was always kind of a weak Pokemon. Like Pidgey it was a very common card. It was, I mean, it's a little bird, right? And it can learn like Gust. The moves that it was learning in the game are just not neat, right? It doesn't invoke fear or terror. Like it's a tiny bird, right? You could probably kick it. Pidgeotto, for some reason, I think it was the quote unquote the hair. I always thought he looked like a rebel teenager. Like, you know, Pidgeotto is the evolution of a small child in Pidgey. And Pidgeotto's like, I'm different. I ain't taking this, you know? And 60 HP is a good amount for a stage 2 Pokemon. Powerful. It's a normal type Pokemon, so it has a resistance to fighting type. As a bird, it is weak against electric, lightning. But Pidgeotto was always a great Pokemon. And the reason I didn't go with Pidgeot is I always felt like Pidgeot, which is the stage 3 evolution, was like, I don't know, like too much maybe. And I don't even know how to say it other than, I don't know, too big or I don't know. I'm not even sure, but I went with Pidgeotto only because of what I said. I think he looked like kind of a rebel teenager type, like kind of I'm using very similar adjectives for all these. Okay. But you know what I'm talking about. When you look at the eye, this is a big bird, 3 feet, 7 inches, 66 pounds bird. It's a bird. Yeah, this is big. This is a large bird that's dangerous. I'm just now remembering as I pull up these cards, I always liked these little descriptions of these Pokemon at the very bottom of these cards. I always felt like it told you something that you didn't already know, or maybe you were anticipating, but it confirmed the thought for you. This one says, very protective of its sprawling territory, this Pokemon will fiercely peck at any intruder. So like, yeah, this Pokemon is awesome. Okay. Nathan has sent us a Pidgeotto, so let's check it out. Oh, this is a Pidgeot, but still a very cool card. A Pidgeot EX. So again, the Pidgeot is, as I kind of mentioned, like I almost just think the Pidgeot is too much, and I don't even know how to like pinpoint what's too much. Is it too big? Maybe it's that this Pokemon's hair, so to speak, is like blondish with some red, whereas Pidgeotto's hair is all red. I don't know. I don't even know how to pinpoint it, but I like Pidgeotto over Pidgeot. That's my pick. So to recap, as we move into the top 5, we have number 10, Ninetales. Number 9, Hitmonchan. Number 8, Dugtrio. Number 7, Blastoise. And number 6, Pidgeotto. As we move into the top 5, these are some of the most powerful Pokemon that there are. And that's not a coincidence. I probably should have picked some more unsung heroes of the Pokemon world. You know, like some that were considered that I can just automatically tell you that are not in the top 5. I always liked Kangaskhan as a Pokemon. Single stage Pokemon does not evolve, at least in the original series. But I always thought Kangaskhan looked cool, like a kangaroo looking Pokemon, big, looked just tough edges and nice firm lines on that Pokemon. I really liked Kangaskhan. I considered Dratini as well. Now, Dratini is the first stage evolution of a trio of Pokemon: Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite. And Dragonite, I also considered a little bit, but Dragonite, um, pretty rare Pokemon. Don't have a lot of experience with a Dragonite in the game. Dragonite is used in the um, in the on the elite. What is it? Oh no, I'm gonna forget now in the game. It's the last road of the game. Of course, I'm playing music now. Let's see. Let's look it up. Pokemon game. It's like the Victory Road, maybe. Um, Maybe that's after the Elite Four. Yes, the Elite Four. So Dragonair was a Pokemon that you always saw in the Elite Four, um, and I don't know. That was pretty much the only time you ever run into it in the game. The card was cool. Dragonite never really struck me as like a scary Pokemon, like a Pokemon that you wouldn't want to run into. It was always kind of like, oh, Dragonite's cute. I don't know. Just didn't do it for me. So let's move into the top five. Okay, let's quit farting around here. Top five. Number five is honestly one of my favorites, and this Pokemon is so awesome. Every time I run into it and I see it, like this is a Pokemon that I think would make a kick-ass tattoo. And I'm sure there's tattoos of this Pokemon everywhere. Gengar comes in at number five. Gengar is a ghost type Pokemon, a psychic Pokemon. And Gengar is the stage 3 evolution of Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. These are all ghosts. And I don't know what it is about Gengar, but I just like the way Gengar's put together, man. Like he just his whole body is his face, but he always has this like really threatening smile on all the time. And I don't know, something about him. I think he just looks awesome. Purple with the red eyes is a really awesome like combo. I always liked Haunter, which is obviously the evolution right before Gengar. But these ghost Pokemon, this evolution of the ghost Pokemon is so cool. Even Ghastly looks cool. And Ghastly was like a pretty common card to get. Like it was not really that tough to find a Ghastly. They're everywhere in Lavender Town in the game. As you go into the haunted Silphco or the haunted mansion or whatever it is in Lavender Town, Ghastlies are everywhere in there. The spirits are unrest, and but you really couldn't find a Gengar in the game. The only way you can get a Gengar in Pokemon is you have to trade your Haunter to evolve it. And so having a Gengar in the Pokemon game was like really tough, which maybe the rarity of it just makes me that much more into Gengar. But yeah, Gengar, very cool Pokemon, would make a really awesome tattoo. I'm sure the artwork of the cards, especially the new cards, I'm sure is awesome. Like here's one, and I'm not trying to steal Nathan's thunder by any means, but like this just looks like an awesome card. Like this is a scary Pokemon, really cool. So yeah, Gengar, number five. If Nathan's looking, I'm sorry, we're gonna move on, but we'll jump back if I see a link come through. Number four, top four now, is Alakazam. Alakazam, another stage 3 Pokemon. The evolution of Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam. Now, Alakazam is a psychic type Pokemon. And again, the only way that you could acquire an Alakazam in the game was to trade your Kadabra to evolve it. So unless you had one of those cords for your Game Boy Color and you had a little neighbor kid who also played the game that was willing to trade, not only willing to trade, but to trade you the Pokemon back after you traded it to evolve it. Because half the time I would, you know, in my mind as like a 10-year-old, you're like, oh, I could trade it with like Corey down the street. But what if he doesn't trade it back? Like, what happens? Like, I spent weeks training this Kadabra to evolve, and then I trade him so it evolves into an Alakazam, and then he could just keep it. Like, there's no laws. There's no laws against that. That was terrifying. So, yeah, it was tough to find an Alakazam or a Gengar, really. But Alakazam was cool in the show. Alakazam was a Pokemon that Sabrina, the gym leader, had. And Alakazam has some crazy psychic power that is unmatched. Oh, dude, very cool Gengar that Nathan sent over. I had no doubts. Look at this card. This is sick. This is so awesome. A Gengar EX, a mega. This is a evolution from Gengar. So this is a Mega Gengar EX. But oh man, the shout out to the Japanese culture. It's a white Gengar. An awesome move that does 120 damage. Weakness is dark type. I mean, super cool. Insanely cool. Love that Gengar. Okay, so back to Alakazam. Alakazam, very capable psychic Pokemon. I always thought Alakazam had a leg up on most other Pokemon, just based on the psychic prowess of Alakazam. Like, I know that may seem obvious what I'm saying, but like Alakazam has a couple spoons in his hands that he can bend at any moment with his mind. Like, I mean, fire's tough and Blastoise's cannons are tough, but like, dude, Alakazam is a psychic. Like, he can defeat you without moving with just his mind. Very cool. Nathan's been working overtime, sends me an Alakazam almost immediately. Another very awesome artwork, an Alakazam EX. So it's very clear to me that the EX cards are the most sought after artwork that there is. Yeah, the new artwork of these cards really speaks to like the personality, so to speak, of these Pokemon. It's very cool. But yeah, you can see Alakazam here, and the weaknesses and things like that are on the cards. But I don't know. Like, in my mind, Alakazam doesn't have a weakness. Like, I understand that he's weak against dark and psychic type Pokemon, but like, no, not really. Like, he's undefeated, you know? So Alakazam, very cool. All right, moving into the top 3. These are Pokemon that, like, when I play the game and when I have the card game, etc., you have to, like, I have to have these Pokemon in my squad. Have to. They're like, there's no exception to this rule. These are the best, and I want them every single time, no matter how I have to acquire them, no matter how I have to get them. And I just think they're great. Number 3 is a legendary bird, Zapdos. Zapdos just looks awesome. It's kind of an oxymoron, right? He's an electric type bird. So he doesn't have a weakness, right? Because like normally birds are weak to electric type Pokemon, but he is electric type, which is crazy. It's awesome. And he's resistant to fighting type Pokemon because he's electric and a bird. This Pokemon is awesome. I'm not sure how else to say it. This Pokemon is the coolest. obviously a rare card. You don't just find this card in the wild. This was a very difficult card to acquire. I always thought Zapdos's HP in the original game should be way higher than 90. Like 90 just seems not strong enough for Zapdos, but here we are. His description is a legendary bird Pokemon said to appear from the clouds while wielding enormous lightning bolts, which is terrifying. Okay. If you imagine yourself, let's imagine you driving home from work on 465. It's a Thursday afternoon. You're listening to a nice song in your vehicle. You're hitting a little bit of construction traffic. Hate that, All of a sudden, it starts to rain. A drizzle hits your windshield. And you flip on your wipers and you're like, oh, this is annoying. Traffic, a little drizzle. You hear a little bit of thunder in the distant background. And out of nowhere, the clouds open and a giant bird. Okay, this bird is actually not that big. 5'3", 116 pounds. A good sized bird. A bird the size of an eagle comes out of the clouds wielding lightning bolts in his talons. You're telling me you're not scared of that? You're telling me you're not respecting that? You serious? Zapdos is amazing, okay? Zapdos is the number 3 Pokemon. That doesn't mean there's 2 better, but Zapdos is it. Zapdos is, yeah. Zapdos is cool. Okay, we're at the top 2. We've arrived. This is where the controversy begins, okay? Now, I saved these to my last 2. One of them is going to be obvious. And you're going to be like, yeah, duh. The other one, you're probably thinking like, I haven't heard him in his top 10 yet. I would have imagined this would be a top 10 Pokemon, but haven't seen him yet. It could be, if it's not 1 or 2, it's not in the top 10. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting, right? Number two. Charizard, number 2. Okay. Charizard is the most sought after, expensive, rare, cool looking Pokemon card in existence. Okay. This is your edition 1 Charizard that is just the coolest. Like, what an awesome Pokemon card. The artwork is beautiful. The holographic is beautiful. Edition 1 was always obviously your rarest, right? I mean, Charizard speaks for itself. Anybody who doesn't even know Pokemon knows Charizard. Like, Charizard is like I said, probably the second most recognizable Pokemon outside of Pikachu. Pikachu just because of the show and, in general, Pikachu is just very well known. But yeah, Charizard is a fire-breathing dragon. Like, I don't know how it gets much cooler than that, right? Massive Pokemon, spits fire that is hot enough to melt boulders. Known to unintentionally cause forest fires. How about that? Maybe Charizard's responsible for the West Coast fires. Let me take this moment to just say this. I always thought it would be absolutely indescribably amazing if Pokemon were real. Like, we're a part of our world, right? Where you could like train Pokemon. Like, how awesome would that be? Insanely awesome. Like, you watched the show when you were younger, and like, Ash Ketchum is like kind of a dweeb, and little snot-nosed kid that's just running around with a Pikachu and just beating everybody, right? Like, as an adult, you're probably like, yeah, Ash probably would have been annoying if I was an adult. But like, he had such tight bonds with his Pokemon, and like, they loved him and he loved them. And like, it's not just like a pet. Like, don't get me wrong, pets are great, but like, to have a Pokemon like go fight for you. So cool. Would have been so awesome. All right. Nathan has sent over another card. Let's check it out. Here is the Charizard that I'm showing, and check out how much this is going for. It's a great deal, mind you. This card was rated a 10 mint. A holographic first edition Charizard is going for $225,000. This is the cost of a small home. This card. This card is valuable enough to change the entire course of your life if invested. Insane. But that's where the market is. Here's the sales history. In January 19th of 2025, one sold for $650,000, which is the price of a very nice home here in Indiana. Unbelievable. I don't recall ever having a card like this in my collection, so fear not. But wow, if you did, and your mom like donated it to Goodwill or something, wow. There are no words to describe the sadness. Okay, we have arrived at the number one Pokemon. Now, this will be probably controversial. John Riley, if you're still here, sorry. This has always been my favorite Pokemon. Ever since I can remember. I've always thought this Pokemon looks awesome, is very fearsome. I always selected this Pokemon in my games, and without giving it away, this Pokemon was hard to acquire because you had to nurture its stage 1 a lot. And it was a very worthless stage 1 Pokemon. One of the most worthless Pokemon, in fact. So it was really hard to like level up this Pokemon to evolve into number 1. Those of you diehard fans probably already know who I'm talking about. Number 1 is Gyarados. Okay. Now, again, this is probably controversial for most of you. This is far and away my favorite Pokemon. This Pokemon looks the most badass of any Pokemon. It's a dragon, and it's huge. It's a massive Pokemon. 21 feet 4 inches, and it weighs 518 pounds. Okay. This thing is a monster in the sea. Its weakness is that it evolves from a Magikarp, okay? And Magikarp in the game, in the Pokemon game, in the Game Boy games, in even the card games, is kind of a worthless Pokemon, okay? Splash is a move that doesn't work outside of the water. And this Pokemon is the laughingstock of the show, of the game, really. You can catch them anywhere you want with an old rod, but they don't evolve. They don't evolve for a long time. Magikarp evolves level, I think it's like 28. Okay, 20. But that's high for a stage 1 to evolve. Usually stage 1s are evolving between like 15 and 20, but 20 is a high level to get a Magikarp. So typically what you would have to do in the game is put Magikarp at the lead of your party, at the head of your party. Magikarp would come out in each battle, and then you'd have to immediately pull Magikarp, replace Magikarp with a worthwhile Pokemon, win your battle, and then Magikarp would get half the experience points of that battle to then evolve. Gyarados is awesome. Nathan has sent me the Magikarp that he is coveting in his current world, which again, the artwork to this card is so awesome. I mean, truly beautiful. Like, let's see if we can zoom in here, maybe. The artwork to this card is pretty stunning. Yeah, you don't see cards like this. You really just don't. But Gyarados is number one. Don't laugh at me, John. Gyarados is the best. There is really no doubt about it. And I don't. I mean, Gyarados is the Pokemon that I would teach Surf. Gyarados is the water Pokemon that I would always deploy under really any circumstance other than against leaf grass type Pokemon. But yeah, Gyarados is number one. There's no debate in my world. Gyarados has been my favorite Pokemon card forever. So I don't know. Maybe with a more acquired taste, maybe with a little more research, I'll like a different Pokemon eventually. But right now, today, it's Gyarados. Okay. And I'd appreciate a little respect. You know what, John? Why don't you actually just go ahead and tell me your favorite Pokemon? Why don't you tell me your number one? And then I get to laugh at you. So thanks for joining us tonight on this magical journey of Pokemon. It's great to relive it with friends. And Nathan, thank you for sending the cards over as we went. Very cool. I have a lot to learn clearly about collecting and about finding these cards and what they all the beauty of them. I do want to start collecting them again. I really would like that. But yeah, this Magikarp is beautiful. So we'll see. Maybe I can pull it in a pack when I buy a couple of them. But yeah, I mean, Pokemon's awesome. So if you don't like it, then that sucks for you because you're missing out. So yeah, that's the top 10 Pokemon. Just to rerun down the list, we've got Ninetales at 10, Hitmonchan at number 9. Number 8 is Dugtrio. 7, Blastoise. 6, Pidgeotto. 5 is Gengar. 4, Alakazam. 3, Zapdos. 2 is Charizard. And number 1, Gyarados. So yeah, cool journey. Awesome fun tonight. That was good stuff. I actually really like the top 10, so we're going to keep doing that. And I'm going to try to think of other awesome categories to give top 10s for. The next podcast will actually probably be sandwiches, because that's the top 10 that I was thinking about doing before Pokemon entered my brain. There's a lot of sandwiches to choose from, and I'm going to give you my top 10. If you have suggestions for top 10s that you'd like to hear, or if you'd like to join me for a top 10, please, that would be great. I would love that. So we can coordinate a time and a date to jump on together and do a top 10 together. So unload your ideas on me. That'd be great. As for King of the Hill, obviously we can't forget the King of the Hill. Let me get the intro out of the way here.
Now here's King of the Hill.
King of the Hill for the week is back to the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how you choose another King of the Hill. Patrick Mahomes is headed to his fifth Super Bowl in 7 years. Sixth Super Bowl in 7 years. No, he's lost 2 championship. No, yes, he's lost 2 championship games. So this will be his 5th Super Bowl in 7 years. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the world. And looking back on what his contract is, the Chiefs got him for a steal. So he'll be in Kansas City for the foreseeable future, getting paid $45 million a year. And Patrick Mahomes is on top of the world. I don't know how he gets better than where Patrick Mahomes is in his career. So King of the Hill is Patrick Mahomes. That was an easy one. Appreciate you all joining us this evening. And I know this is not our typical route of a podcast tonight, and this is probably going to be a difficult one to follow on Spotify. So please check out the VOD on YouTube. I'm going to upload the video to YouTube. Video will also be on Facebook, so check me out on Facebook as well. Twitter, we are going to do the Twitter, x.com, the Everything app. Everything's happening on X. You can follow me at RealGTL on X. And yeah, we'll see how the top 10s go. Again, would love to have guests. So if you want to jump in, I can try to figure out how to get you in here as far as sound and video, and we'll see what we can do. But until next time, y'all have a lovely evening, and thanks for coming along. That's it. Bye. Adios. See you later. But happy to have you with us, however and whenever you may be joining us. We've got